Welcome to episode 254 of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. I'm your host and fellow student, Michelle Nelson, and together we'll learn the basics of home design and construction and demystify the building process so we can make smart design decisions and build quality dream homes with or without a general contractor. Even if you haven't started building your house yet, you should start thinking about your furniture layout. Furniture placement is important because it dictates how good a room looks, how well it functions, and how easily you can move in and through the space. If your rooms have beautiful furniture pieces, but they're arranged awkwardly, it will take away from the overall stylishness and functionality of your home. Developing a furniture layout early on will help you come up with a more accurate electrical plan too, where you can specify where electrical outlets for lamps, TVs, and other electronics, and put them where they make the most sense as it relates to the furniture that will be in the room. Let's discuss some furniture placement rules of thumb that you should consider way before you buy your furniture. Before we get to that, though, let me say a very big thank you to It's Cardi G. I love that name. Thank you so much for helping the show by posting our latest Apple Podcasts 5-star rating and review. I'm so glad that the podcast has helped you, and I'm thanking you, a big time thank you for recommending the show. You realize that's what you're doing, don't you? Every time you say something nice about the podcast, either in a review on social media or to your friends and family, you're endorsing and helping the podcast and me. Spreading the word about the show in those ways are the very best way to support the show. So thank you again. All right, let's move into our furniture placement tips. Number 1, start with the 3 F's. Does that sound familiar? Well, the 3 F's were the first rules of interior design, which we learned in episode 203 called Your Home's Interior Design, What to Do and Where to Start, Part 1. The 3 F's stand for, can you remember? Function, focal point, and feeling. We can start with the 3 F's for furniture placement too. First and foremost, think about the room's function. What do you want to do in the room? What activities will take place there? Think about all the things that you want to do in the room, and that will help you decide what furniture pieces are necessary for the space and where they should be placed. Take one room at a time. Make a mental or written list of how you will spend time in the space. Things like watching TV, napping, reading, kids playing, parties, working and homework, and virtual meetings. Definitely make sure that the hardest working pieces of furniture that are necessary for the room's function can fit comfortably in the space. Does your 6-foot-tall teenager's bedroom have enough room for a queen-sized bed and a desk for homework? Will you have enough seating in the great room so the whole family can enjoy movie night together? And where should you place the TV? Can your space accommodate a sofa that's deep enough for Sunday afternoon naps? And how much storage will you need for your kids' toys? Will you need a large coffee table or ottoman where you can play games? Make sure that most of the furniture pieces, the lighting and electronics, are placed in a position that will allow you to easily take part in the activities that you have planned for the space. The second thing to consider is focal point. The focal point is the starring feature of the room. Maybe that's a fireplace, a beautiful view, the TV, or a piece of art. Now, even if you have several things that could act as focal points, that doesn't mean that you have to make all of them focal points. So you decide what you want to be your focal point in the room. Try to stick with one focal point, or 2 if absolutely necessary. Plan to position most of your seating in a way that allows people to see the focal point. The furniture doesn't necessarily have to directly face the focal point, but if you can manage, place most furniture around the focal point or in a position where everyone can appreciate the focal point with a slight turn of the head. And the third F is feeling. What feeling do you want the room to evoke? How do you want people to feel when they spend time in the room? Relaxed, cozy, happy, inspired? Let the feeling guide the amount and scale of furniture that you put in the room. And of course, the style of the furniture. If you want the space to feel calm and airy, you might want fewer pieces of furniture. If you like a cozier vibe, you could potentially add more furnishings. Just keep in mind, though, that even if you want your room to feel cozy, there should always be enough space to move freely in and through the room. You don't want people shimmying or squeezing between furniture pieces to get around the space. And although you don't want furniture that's too large, you also don't want pieces that are too small. Definitely not too small. Furniture that's too small will make the space feel inexpensive, cavernous, and cold. So if you have to err on one side of the other, always err on getting larger furniture than you think. That was tip number 1. Start with the 3 F's, just like you would with interior design. Now let's move to the second tip for furniture layout. Number 2, consider flow and walkways. One of the most important things to consider when arranging furniture in a room is traffic flow. Make sure you leave room for clear walking paths. People shouldn't be tripping over furniture or each other to pass through the room. Create a clear path so people can walk from one end of the room to the other without difficulty. When considering your furniture layout, you should think through how people will get into and around the room. Is there anything that blocks their paths when they leave the living room sofa or accent chairs to go to the kitchen or bathroom? Ideally, walkways and aisles should be at least 3 foot wide, so you can maneuver the space comfortably. The space between the coffee table and the seating should be 14 to 18 inches. If the traffic flow is obstructed, you should use smaller and/or fewer furniture pieces. Tip number 3, play with proportions before you purchase. To figure out ideal dimensions for your furniture, you can draw your room dimensions to scale on a piece of graph paper. You can make 1, 2, or 3 squares on the graph paper equivalent to 1 foot. Make sure you add your windows, doors, and TVs to the room you're drawing. Then, using a pencil, draw in the major furniture pieces. Trace around with your finger or a pencil all the pathways around the furniture to see if you notice any problems. Now, this takes some trial and error. You may have to erase and redraw several furniture pieces until things look like they fit well. Alternatively, you could cut out some appropriately sized paper furniture pieces and move them around the graph paper room to see what arrangement allows for the best flow and function. In addition, you could use an online room planning tool or app that will give you a more realistic look at the room and the furnishings you're planning. I usually start with the graph paper, then play around with the online tool. There are many virtual and paid room planners out there. Just do a Google search. IKEA has one that I've never tried but heard good things about. And I've used one at roomstyler.com, and it's fairly simple. After you've done the planning on paper and/or online, to be extra careful, you can take a tape measure and some painter's tape or chalk and go to your house site. Mark out the length and width of pieces you're thinking about purchasing. You can also place several empty boxes in the room where the furniture is marked out to give you a 3-dimensional model of the potential furnishings. Keep a list of the furniture pieces needed for each room of the house. Also note the ideal furniture dimensions and keep that list with you either in your car or on your phone so it's close by if you happen to see a piece of furniture you like online or in person. And if you fall in love with something that's out of your size range, ask if the piece comes in different sizes. Or jot down the dimensions and tape it out in your space to see if it might work after all. Next tip, number 4, make balance more important than symmetry. Whether you're into symmetrical design or not, balance is more important in any space. Symmetry means that each side of a space matches. Balance means that each side might be different, but that each side is visually proportional. Balance height and scale within a room. Instead of twin sofas facing each other, which is symmetrical, you could balance a sofa and two smaller chairs if you prefer. That's balance. A floor lamp on one side of the room could be balanced with a tall table lamp on the other. Symmetry's fine, but balance is key. Avoid putting all your large furnishings on just one side of the room. That makes the room feel lopsided. A balance of color and patterns should also be a goal. Distributing color and pattern throughout a space is better than putting all the color and pattern in just one corner of the room. Balancing dark-colored furnishings on each side of the room is also highly recommended. Number 5, use the buddy system. As a general rule, no piece of furniture should hang out in a room all by itself. It looks strange for an armchair or love seat not to have a companion. Now, the companion doesn't have to be another seat, but it should have a buddy. Wherever you place a seat, pair it with a buddy side table. Or you could use another chair, or both, a chair and a side table. An exception to this rule of companion pieces is bench seating. A bench placed in a living room or at the end of a bed looks just fine on its own. Number 6, create conversation zones. Speaking of using the buddy system, it's nice to create a zone within the space to promote coziness and conversation. Use your furniture arrangement and/or rugs to delineate different zones. Seats in a conversation zone should generally face each other. Maybe not directly face to face, but things should be L-shaped or U-shaped. Larger rooms often have more than one conversation zone. A rug under a pair or a group of chairs visually helps to create a zone. Placing the back of a sofa, with or without a companion console table against it, helps to configure a separate conversation zone. The back of a sofa tells us we're entering a different conversation zone. Place furniture pieces of a single conversation zone close enough so that people can chat without having to raise their voices. Number 7, float your furniture. Floating furniture is a process of moving furnishings off the walls and toward the center of the room. Unless you have a pretty small room, there's no need to push all of your furniture against the walls. Even pulling seating out as little as 12 inches from the wall can create the illusion of a larger, airier space. If you have a large room, feel free to arrange furniture in such a way that the conversation areas are created toward the middle of the room, leaving several feet between the walls and the furniture. Number 8, keep sight lines open. Keep the sight lines across the room and to the outdoors clear whenever possible. You don't have to use low furniture in all cases or in all areas of the room, but lower furnishings may be the best option in front of windows or in sight lines near the entrance or exit to a room. That way, natural light is not blocked and your view into or out of a room is not obstructed. This can be tricky if you have floor-to-ceiling windows or windows on a wall where you want to put a bed. In those circumstances, you can place furniture in front of the windows, but maximize the remaining natural light through the room by choosing low furniture when possible and using mirrors or other light-reflecting shiny surfaces, and plenty of light fixtures in the room. Number 9, use oversized rugs. One of the most common problems that designers spot in rooms not designed by professionals are rugs that are too small. If you're using area rugs to define a conversation zone, the rug belongs under all the furniture, if you can manage it. Make sure the rug is big enough so that at the very least, the front legs of large pieces sit on the rugs. The backs of the furniture can be on the floor if necessary, but those front legs, they should be on the rug. Sometimes very large rugs can be pretty expensive. In fact, lots of times they're very expensive. But a budget-friendly way to get a lot of rug for the money is to look for a piece of carpeting that you like and have it cut and bound into a rug. And as quiet as it's kept, if you have beautiful flooring in your house and you're just not that into rugs, you can go rugless. To be sure, rugs add warmth and style to a room and they help to decrease echoing. But if you don't want a rug, you don't have to use one. Now, most designers think that statement is blasphemy, but it's your house and you can do what you want. It's not a popular choice, but I'm actually not going to use a rug under my dining room table. I don't want dropped food trapped in the crevices of a dining room rug, so I'm going rugless in that room. But if you decide you want a rug in the dining room or any other space in the house, just make sure it's not too small. Again, it's better to be a little bit too big than too small in this case. Number 10, choose a large coffee table. Notice a theme here? For lots of things, bigger is better. And that's true for the coffee table too. A large coffee table makes a statement and it's super functional, allowing for lots of room for you to put down drinks, play board games, put your feet up, or whatever else you might need it for. A large coffee table offers easier access from the seats around it. But don't forget, you need about 18 inches between the coffee table and the seating. If you can't find a large enough single coffee table that you like, you can use 2 smaller coffee tables side by side, or an extra large ottoman. You could also use a smaller dining table as your coffee table. Just have a carpenter or furniture maker shorten the legs. And number 11, our last tip, place tables at a comfortable distance from seating. Every seat should have an easy-to-access side table or coffee table. Avoid layouts that force people to move from their seat in order to reach whatever's on the tables. When it comes to table height, here are the rules. Side and end tables should be approximately the same height or slightly lower as the nearby armchair. And for coffee tables, the height should be about the same height as the chair or sofa seat, or a little bit lower. Now remember, nobody has to live in your house but you. And these are rules that will help you with your furniture placement, but every rule can be broken if you are exercising some creativity or if your house functions better by breaking the rules. Experiment with your layout. Try every conceivable option and then settle on what works best for your family. Before we go, let's do a couple of quiz questions to review what we've learned and to see if you've retained any information. Question number 1. True or false? The space between the seating and the coffee table should be about 14 to 18 inches. The answer is true. That's the general rule of thumb, but you can add a couple of inches more if necessary. 14 to 18 inches is a wide enough space to give most people enough room to move freely around the coffee table, but also comfortably close enough to reach anything placed on the coffee table. And question number 2. How tall should a side table be? A, as tall as the back of the chair it sits beside. B, 20 inches. C, as tall as the arms of the chair it sits beside, or a little lower. Or D, as tall as the seat of the chairs it sits beside, or a little lower. The answer is C. A side table should be as tall as the arm of the chair it sits next to, or a little lower. So there's no exact right answer as far as inches goes here. The height of the side table will depend on the height of the arms of your chair. A coffee table should be the same height as the seat of the chair or sofa it's next to. So in general, a coffee table should be a little lower than side tables. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you learned as much as I did. Make sure you subscribe to the show or follow the show so new episodes are released to your podcast library as soon as they are published. Thanks for joining me. Come back again next time for the next episode of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. Please remember that the purpose of this podcast is simply to educate and inform. It's not a substitute for professional advice. The information that you hear is based only on the opinions, research, and experiences of my guests and myself. That information might be incomplete, it's subject to change, and it may not apply to your project. In addition, building codes and requirements vary from region to region, so always consult a professional about specific recommendations for your home.